Communication is so important. Have you ever been in a situation where you've tried to tell another person what you're thinking or feeling, and it ended in a big fight? Or perhaps you've experienced a moment where you felt steamrolled by someone close to you, and then snapped a few weeks later, either at that person or maybe at someone else. Poor communication is often the culprit of our anger. So, learning how to communicate better is an essential part of anger management. Part of effective communication is learning how to be more assertive. Assertive communication takes circumstances into our own hands and prioritizes our needs while empathizing with others at the same time. I've attached a PDF of some of the information we will go over in this module for you to save and reference easily later on when you need it. When these techniques are executed correctly, it can change your life, so listen carefully. As we discussed earlier in this course, assertiveness is an important part of anger management. It's a way to express yourself to get your needs met without causing the negative ramifications that are associated with anger responses. In this module, we'll be going over how to identify your conflict response, several assertiveness skills that you can implement immediately, how to utilize assertiveness communication, and then we'll review some key points. Let's start by identifying your conflict response. So identifying your conflict response is beneficial because it gives you a framework to start with. So many conflicts occur because we feel that our rights have been violated. This tends to make us want to respond with aggressive behaviors if we feel that we were disrespected or violated. And typical conflict responses are aggression, passiveness, and assertiveness. Let's dive a little deeper into each of them. As we discussed before, aggression is a behavior that is intended to cause harm or injury to another person or property. Aggression can include verbal abuse, threats, or violent acts. The message we try to get across with aggression is that my feelings, thoughts, and beliefs are important, but yours are not. Then we have passiveness. A passive reaction is allowing something to happen without taking any action. An alternative to aggressive behavior is to act passively. So, acting passively is undesirable because you allow your rights to be violated. You may end up resenting the person that violated your rights, and you may also get angry at yourself for allowing your rights to be violated. It is likely that you will become more angry the next time you encounter this person. The message that comes across with passivity is that your feelings, thoughts, and beliefs are important, but mine are unimportant. Acting passive may help you avoid the negative consequences associated with aggression, but it may also lead to negative personal consequences, such as diminished self-esteem, and it can prevent you from having your needs satisfied. And then we have assertiveness. So from an anger management perspective, the best way to deal with a person who has violated your rights is to act assertively. Acting assertively involves standing up for your rights in a way that is respectful of other people. The basic lesson of assertiveness is that my feelings, thoughts, and beliefs are important, and yours are equally important. By acting assertively, you can express your feelings, thoughts, and beliefs to the person who violated your rights without dealing with the negative consequences associated with aggression or the devaluation of your feelings associated with passivity. It's important to note that acting assertively, aggressively, or passively are learned behaviors. They are not innate, unchangeable traits. So take a moment to pause this video and reflect on which conflict response you generally use. And then you can also write down what are some of the positives and negatives associated with the way you respond to conflict. And just take a moment to reflect on that. Once you're able to identify your conflict response, we can start learning some assertiveness skills. So 4 really important areas of your life that you can focus on when trying to learn to be more assertive are having respect for yourself, is expressing your needs, taking ownership of your behavior, and harnessing the power of saying no. Let's dive into each one of these a little bit deeper. So, lack of assertiveness often results from a deeper, low-lying lack of confidence. Working proactively to build respect for yourself can help you overcome fear that prevents us from being assertive and speaking our mind in the first place. So it's good to remember that you have value simply by being you. We all have human rights that are bestowed upon us by just being. Develop a solid understanding of yourself and learn how to appreciate the value of your rights as a person. So some tips that you can implement is to engage in positive self-talk. So engaging in positive self-talk on a daily basis has been shown to lead to increased confidence and self-respect over time. There are several empirical studies based on the idea that we can maintain our sense of self-integrity by telling ourselves or affirming what we believe in positive ways. You can get creative and create your own positive mantra based on the areas in your life that you feel could use a boost of confidence. Here's one affirmation you can repeat 3 times throughout the day for the next 30 days. Okay, ready? You can write this down. I am becoming the person I've always wanted to be. I am in control of my anger. I'll repeat it again. I am becoming the person I've always wanted to be. I am in control of my anger. Try even making a daily reminder on your phone now so you can automate receiving this affirmation daily. Another tip is to keep a journal. So, journaling is a healthy way to compose your thoughts so that you can communicate them more effectively. When we become angry, it can be difficult to express ourselves appropriately. By journaling, you can have a safe space to organize, acknowledge, and reflect on your thoughts and feelings. Acknowledging our thoughts and feelings is the highest form of self respect. And then 3, take care of your needs. Everyone has physical, emotional, and psychological needs. When you allow yourself the ability to care for these needs, you build up a level of respect for yourself and you can better identify what your needs are. When you know your needs, it can be easier to assert them to others. So, once you acknowledge that you do have wants and needs, we need to find a respectful way to voice them to make sure that your needs are being met. Don't wait for someone else to recognize your needs. So, some tips for expressing your needs is to use first person language. So, for example, statements such as, it makes me feel, I need, and I want, and avoid the use of you, which fails to communicate your needs and instead shifts the focus of the other person. The second tip for expressing your needs is ask what you want more of, not less. So, I need more organization in the house, not stop being so messy. You can pause this video and think about the last interaction you had with someone where you asked them to do less of something and try to reframe that same interaction to what you could have asked them to do more of instead. And then 3, remain calm while you're speaking. Use your anger scale if you find yourself getting angry during a conversation. This will help you recognize that you need to take some time to de escalate yourself, and then you can come back to the conversation. It is very difficult to assert yourself when you are angry or emotional. So, even though it sometimes doesn't feel like it, especially when anger is present, the truth is that we are responsible for our own behavior. The more we take ownership of our own behavior, the more that other people will recognize that, which in turn will lead to the influence of social interactions we experience on a daily basis. This is essentially creating healthy relationships. It creates a dependability factor, which will be respected by the other party and allow you to have more control over the role you play within the relationship. When the respect of others is earned and increases, it helps to remove potential barriers which get in the way of assertive communication. So some tips for taking ownership of our own behaviors is be aware if you tend to blame others. If you're constantly finding yourself blaming others, practice self reflection. People who blame others tend to use absolute statements such as you are always or you never. Blaming others can become a habit, which means that you can work towards changing it. So you can pause this video and think about some interactions you had throughout the week. Can you recall times that maybe you did use some of this absolute language? 2 is to focus on solutions. So when we focus on our own actions and responses, we can find practical solutions. When we change our mindset from what other people are doing to what we are doing, we can come up with ways to manage or fix a situation better. And then 3, practice overall accountability. If you are constantly finding yourself blaming others, there's a good chance you're not practicing accountability. While others are not always right, that should not be the primary focus. When you focus on what you are contributing to a situation or a relationship, you can then control how you act. So perhaps one of the most important things is to harness the power of saying no. Harnessing the power of no is somewhat of a superpower. If you can tap into it and figure out how to do it correctly, it will absolutely change your entire life. You'll notice that once you learn how to say no, you'll find that you will gain more time, energy, and respect from others. However, saying no can be incredibly difficult, especially when you're used to saying yes so often. However, mastering this skill is crucial for learning how to be assertive. Knowing and understanding your limits on how much you're able to take on in your life will help you better pinpoint areas in which you need to protect through the use of saying no. It's not possible for you to please everyone, so it's crucial that you protect your time like an object that needs to be guarded. Some tips: say no directly. If someone asks you to do something and you don't want to, don't feel like you have to say maybe or say yes and then tell them no later. Practice saying no the first time. So, Pause this video and take a moment to think about the last time you said yes to something when you really wanted to say no. Reflect on how did it affect your mood? Did you get anxiety leading up to the commitment? And think about how you would have felt if you just said no in the moment. The second tip is to use assertive body language when saying no. So, examples of assertive body language include maintaining eye contact, speaking firmly and confidently, having a straight posture, but keeping your shoulders relaxed. And then three, and maybe the most important, is to set boundaries. So, boundaries tell people what your limits are, and it can help them to respect them. If others don't know what your limits are, they're likely to continue to push you past them. The best way to set boundaries is to be direct and verbalize what they are. So, for example, I know you like to call me on your way home from work, but that's usually when I'm sitting down for dinner. It would be better for me if we talked later at night or over the weekend instead. Now that we have some assertiveness skills, let's talk about how we can appropriately communicate. Assertiveness is all about expressing your point of view to others in a way that is clear and direct, but still honors the other person. When we communicate in an assertive manner, it can help to minimize conflict and change the culture surrounding your relationship with the other person. So, like we just discussed, using I statements is so important. So, I want, I need, I feel all convey as assertions that get your point across clearly. So, for example, I feel like you don't care about me when you don't remember important things like our anniversary. I need you to put more effort into remembering things like that. It would make me very happy. The second one is to use empathy. People are naturally going to see things primarily from their own perspective at first, not yours. By recognizing and understanding how the other person views things, you can remove the barrier of communication, which is often present in arguments. Once this is accomplished, the other party will be more open to hearing you express what you need. So, for example, I understand that our anniversary may not be as important to you as it is to me, but I feel that we should be celebrating our milestones together as a couple. Could we try to plan something special to do this weekend? Three would be the method of try again. If your initial attempts to be assertive are not being heard or respected, don't give up. Remain polite and respectful with the other person, but become firmer with the person that you are in conversation with. This could be accomplished by highlighting how many times you've tried to get your point across. For example, this is the third time I've expressed to you how important our anniversary is to me. If you aren't able to show me you understand and are continuing to not put effort in, then I'm going to keep feeling really hurt by this. I would really like you to plan something with me for our anniversary. 4. Ask for more time. If you are a 3 or above on the anger scale, it might be best to take some time to de escalate yourself before responding to a conflict or confrontation. Be honest with the person and remove yourself physically from the situation if possible. So, for example, I'm starting to feel angry right now, so I'm going to go into the other room, but I would really like to return to talking about this when I feel calmer because this is really important to me. And then 5, be direct. Sometimes when we are passionate or emotional, what we want in our head struggles to be communicated clearly. Using verbs that are more straight to the point when you communicate is essential in order to send a clear message. So use verbs like need or want instead of could, should, would, or would like. So for example, I want to go away this weekend for our anniversary because it is important to me, rather than saying I would like to go away this weekend for our anniversary. And then finally, restate your message. So, any good band practices ahead of time before their performance, right? They don't just wing it. So, prepare your message ahead of time, and it can help fine tune it and prevent a situation where you're caught off guard. So, walking into a conversation prepared will make you appear more confident and help you stick to your point. So, if for instance your partner does not want to honor your anniversary, be direct and say, it's very important to me that we celebrate our anniversary. If your partner still doesn't get the message, then keep restating your message using the same language. Eventually, they will realize you mean what you're saying. And just a tip for that, be careful when using this method. If you use it to protect yourself from exploitation, that's good. But if you use it to bully someone into taking action that's against their interest, it can come off manipulative and dishonest. So now let's just recap some of the points we talked about, because I know that was a lot. So assertiveness is all about the balance of standing up for yourself and getting your needs met while also being respectful of other people's needs. Learning to be assertive takes time. It starts by identifying your own needs and wants, expressing them in a positive way, and learning to say no when you need to. The more you practice these techniques, the more confidence you will have that you can be assertive. So now I want you to think of one situation this week where you can put to use one of these skills and plan ahead about how you're going to do this.